you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Kerry, I watch with great interest some of your comments, and may I say, I think you're about to hit the trifecta. Geneva, too, was a total collapse, as I predicted to you that it would be. The only tangible result is that people who went to Geneva for the Free Syrian National Council, their relatives were kidnapped. The Israeli-Palestinian talks are, even though you may drag them out for a while, are finished. And I predict to you, even though we gave the Iranians the right to enrich, which is unbelievable, those talks will collapse too. You can talk about Mali and you can talk about other places in the world, but on the major issues, this administration is failing very badly. On the issue of Ukraine, my hero, Teddy Roosevelt, used to say, talk softly but carry a big stick. What you're doing is talking strongly and carrying a very small stick, in fact, a twig. What has been done so far as a result of the Russian dismemberment of Ukraine in violation of a treaty that they signed in return for the nuclear inventory of Ukraine, which was then the third largest nuclear power. Some individual sanctions, some diplomatic sanctions, suspension, not removal from the G8, and now more threats to come. I predicted that Putin would go into Crimea because he couldn't bear to give up Sevastopol, because he is what he is. And I am now very concerned, because of our lack of response, whether he will foment discontent in the manner which he is now, which will then demand autonomy for parts of eastern Ukraine. And when the foreign minister of Russia lies to your face once, twice, 3, 4 times, I would be very reluctant to take his word for anything. So here we are with Ukraine being destabilized, part of it dismembered, and we won't give them defensive weapons. I take strong exception to Mr. Murphy's statement. We don't want to provoke Vladimir Putin by giving these people the ability to defend themselves after their country has been dismembered and there is provocations going on. That I say to you, sir, is the logic of appeasement. The logic of appeasement. I want to know, and I think the American people should know, and maybe most importantly the people of Ukraine should know, why won't we give them some defensive weapons when they're facing another invasion, not the first, but another invasion of their country? It is just beyond logic. And frankly, when we don't give people assistance to defend themselves, then it, just as the Syrian decision, it reverberates throughout the entire world. I'd like to know why it is not at least under serious consideration to give them some defensive weapons with which to defend themselves.
Well, Senator, let me begin with the place that you began with your premature judgment about the failure of everything. I guess it's pretty easy to lob those judgments around, but particularly well before the verdict is in on any of them. Geneva 2, my friend, I said will not succeed, maybe for a year or two. But if the truth is there's no military solution and there is only a political solution, you have to have some forum in which to achieve it. You know, the talks on Vietnam, you know this better than anybody, went on for how many years? Years. It took them a year to design the table to sit around. So I had no expectations that Assad's calculation was going to change in time for the first meeting or second meeting. But what we learned is that the Syrian regime was completely unwilling to negotiate in any serious way, which helps in terms of the opposition. And the opposition showed itself to be quite capable. And that was important. And 40 nations took it seriously enough, Senator, to come in order to make it clear you needed a political solution. Now that's a beginning. That's all it is. I understand that. But if Syria is ever going to be resolved, it's going to be through a political process. And that political process, Geneva II, is now in place, though the moment is not ripe, because we still have to change Assad's calculation. And you know as well as I do, because you and I have talked about that, that that has yet to happen. It has to happen. Secondly, Israel-Palestine. It's interesting that you declare it dead, but the Israelis and the Palestinians don't declare it dead. They want to continue to negotiate.
We'll see, won't we, Mr. Secretary?
Beg your pardon?
We'll see.
Well, yeah, we will see, but why
It's
declare
stopped.
dead
It is
today?
stopped. Recognize reality.
Okay. We'll see where the reality is as we go down the road here. There are serious problems. It's a tough issue. But your friend Teddy Roosevelt also said that the credit belongs to the people who are in the arena who are trying to get things done. And we're trying to get something done. That's a Teddy Roosevelt maxism. And I abide by it. I think it's important to do this. Sure, we may fail. And you want to dump it on me? I may fail. I don't care. It's worth doing. It's worth the effort. And the United States has a responsibility to lead, not always to find the pessimism and negativity that's so easily prevalent in the world today. And finally, on the subject that you raise about Iran, we're talking. The option is you can go to war. A lot of people are ready to drop bombs all the time. We can do that. We have the ability. But this president and this Secretary of State believe that the United States of America has a responsibility first to exhaust every diplomatic possibility to find out whether we could prove what the Iranians say, that their program is peaceful. And before you ask the American people to go to war, we have an obligation to exhaust the remedies that are available to us in order to legitimize whatever subsequent action we might have to take. Now, we are engaged in eyes-open negotiations. We have no illusions about how tough this is. I'm not predicting success, Senator. I'm not. But I know we have an obligation to go through this process before we decide to go to war. So that's where we are. You declare them all dead. I don't. And we'll see what the verdict is. With respect to arming and providing assistance to the Ukrainians, the fact is that we are currently working with Ukraine to determine their requirements across the entire security sector. And based on those requirements, we're going to review the options with the Congress and find out whether or not we're in a position to provide assistance. But let me tell you something. If we decided today to give them a whole bunch of assistance, you got to train them, you got to do things, which is the greater deterrent? We happen to believe right now that if the deterrence you're looking for is going to have an impact, the greatest deterrence will come from Putin's recognition of his own vulnerabilities in his economy and his recognition that if we bring sector sanctions, Russia is going to really hurt. I think that's a strong incentive, a strong deterrent, even as we consider what we do for the long term for military assistance, which will not make a difference fast enough to change this calculation.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the time, but facts of stubborn things, as Ronald Reagan used to say. Geneva I, there were 50,000 dead. Geneva II, there was 100 and some thousand dead in Syria. Now there's 150,000 dead. Any objective observer will tell you that Bashar Assad is winning on the battlefield. From the time when the President of the United States said, it's not a matter of whether, it's a matter of when Bashar Assad is going to leave. Nobody says that anymore. And your view of what the Ukrainians need is vastly different from what the Ukrainians think they need, which is a sovereign right to try to defend themselves, which is something that we have done historically, helping people who are struggling against overwhelming odds. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But, John, if I can just say to you, I just said to you, we are evaluating with them exactly what their needs are. And we'll come back here and ask you.
They've said what they needed, what their needs are a long time ago, and you and I could sit down in 15 minutes and tell them, and knowing what their needs are, and that's defensive weapons.
I think you both made your point.
The greatest single need right now is to get their economy moving and to be economically strong, even because they won't survive otherwise.
Senator Markey.